the love affair between faith and political power, entitled The Second Original Sin of Faith, Part 19 of Contemporary Human Confusion by Eastern Philosophers. Looking back on the history of the evolution and development of the concept of God created by the ancient Jewish theologians, we can find that God, as a symbol of absolute truth and an unquestionable sacred belief, not only claims ownership of human hearts but also tries to dominate human destiny on earth. This sacred belief, on the one hand, is the ultimate comfort to the human mind. On the other hand, it is the master of the human spirit and earthly destiny, and the iron hand of political power is needed to dominate human earthly destiny. Once again, the iron hand of political power is needed to dominate the earthly destiny of human beings, which is the fundamental reason, or emotional reason, for the previous belief and the 1,000 years of hard practice of political power. More specifically, the theologians who created the concept of God, who belonged to the ancient Jewish wisdom, carved 1,000 years of hard practice of political power, the emotional curse, in the forehead of God. And it is from this divine feeling, which belongs to God, that the system of theocracy arises. What is the combination of politics and religion? In the name of some sacred belief or absolute truth, political rights should be implemented to human beings or society, from the body to spirit, from behavior to thought, which is called the system of the unity of politics and religion. From another point of view, we can also define the system of theocracy in this way, that is, a sacred belief, an absolute truth, which is not accepted by society by the call of its own spiritual charm, but tries to rely on the terrorist violence of the state, even tries to use the holy and bloody name of jihad. Thus the society from the body to the spirit, from the behavior to the thought comprehensive despotism, is the centralization system. Under the autocratic system, human beings not only lost the freedom of society but also the freedom of spirit and thought. Mankind has become a slave not only of political power, of the violence of state terrorism but also of the spirit. Therefore, I call such a system an autocratic system, in which the freedom of mind and freedom of thought is lost, and the fate of mankind becomes a stagnant pool, without the magnificent waves of spirit, without the sea and the wind of thought, but only the endless darkness and servile noise belonging to death. In the Middle Ages of Europe, the Christian theocracy implemented in the name of Catholicism was a classic expression of the night of the whole human history. However, the theocratic system of Islam is still a tenacious reality, and to a considerable extent, it has become the political support of the current international terrorism. Essentially, the communist movement is a cult movement that pursues the control and dominance of human destiny with material worship as its religious belief or quasi-religious belief. The political situation of the Communist Party of China's tyranny is a modern classic example of the unity of politics and religion. We can say that the Chinese communist tyranny is similar to the theocratic despotism in the Middle Ages of Europe, just like two muddy tears flowing from the same eye of a crocodile. On this issue, Human Catastrophe and Modern Doomsday Book, these two books, have been very specific and detailed discussion, not redundant here. As we discussed specifically in the last lecture, from the ancient Jewish wisdom, or the concept of God that starts with the ancient Jewish wisdom, comes the first sign of faith. Specifically speaking, the first original sin of belief is to deny people's free will in the sacred name of belief. Again, in this lecture, we talked about the unrequited love of faith for political power, and I call this love affair the second sin of faith. The first original sin, that is, the denial of human freedom by faith, has injected the nature of spiritual autocracy into the past faith. At the same time, it has also made the deep-seated hatred of pagans and implacable hatred become a cancerous change of faith. And the holier the faith, the worse the original sin, and the worse the hatred of heretics. And the second sin of faith, of which we are speaking in this lecture, is the very foundation of the feeling and thought of theocracy, and the system of theocracy is always a source of evil in all politics. Previously, we have raised an extremely serious issue, that is, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All three religions advocate a noble and moral life, and call for the spirit of fraternity between people from different perspectives. But why has the vendetta between these three religions become the theme song of a tragedy in the whole history of mankind? Why is it that in these three sacred beliefs, which also advocate the spirit of human fraternity, the tragedy of human vendetta is deduced? We have raised such a question, then discussed today, we can draw a specific conclusion, that is, the original sin of faith in the past. The first original sin and faith's negation of man's free spirit, his affirmation of spiritual autocracy, and his second original sin, that is, his faith's unrequited love for political rights, and the evil system of the unity of politics and religion resulting from this unrequited love, are the root of the above-mentioned great tragedy. So we come to this conclusion today, not to think about ancient worries, but to avoid the recurrence of original sin in our sacred and noble cause of rebuilding spiritual belief.